And so many in the Black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted.
She literally calls him a charlatan, right to his face. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin are all present in this episode. Yep, it's an all-star lineup. And once again, they're completely losing it over. Surprise, surprise. The usual woke talking points. This time, their guest is author Coleman Hughes, who's there to discuss his views on colorblindness in the context of race. But the hosts are furious, absolutely livid, because he dared to write a book suggesting that society should strive to avoid racial bias and treat people equally, regardless of skin color. While that might sound like your typical progressive manifesto, it's actually the exact opposite, and that's precisely what set Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny off. So, let's dive into this fiery clip from The View, where the hosts go off on Coleman Hughes and his book, only for him to completely shut them down live on their own show.
To do is explain to folks what you mean by this. Arguments for a colorblind America. What do you mean when you say that?
So a lot of people equate colorblindness to I don't see race, or to pretending not to see race. I think that's a big mistake. We all see race, right? And we're all capable of being racially biased, so we should all be self-aware to that possibility. My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything, right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
I'm sorry, baby. Can I just point out that there is a reason for that? You know, when I went to school, getting any information about anyone's race was not taught. No history, there was no Black history, none of those things were taught.
It's actually better when there isn't a separate Black history, because the very idea of dividing history by race already creates separation. Terms like Black History, Black History Month, and the Black National Anthem, all of it, in some ways, pushes us further apart. It should all be considered American history. The reason there wasn't a distinct Black history in the past wasn't because Black people didn't matter, far from it, but because there wasn't the same kind of divisive framing driving it. At least not to the extent we see today. So yes, it's better without a separate category for Black history, not because Black people shouldn't be acknowledged, but because when every story is seen as part of American history, it unites us. After all, we're all Americans.
Been such a pointing of very specific racial things, like women couldn't get into colleges. If you were a Black person, there are a lot of colleges wouldn't accept you. Trying to equal the playing field. I think that's what a lot of folks have been trying to do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think that's your experience, and that's valid. You know, as a counterpoint, when I was in 5th grade, we all watched Roots together in public school.
Yeah.
So these are different experiences. I
Yes.
think it's also different generations. It's different parts of the country, right? We have very different cultures all living together in one country. So I'm not going to deny that. But I view this notion of a colorblind society similar to the idea of a peaceful society, which is to say it's an ideal, it's a North Star. And the point is not that we're ever going to get there. We're not going to touch it. But we have to know when we're going forward and when we're going backwards. And we're going backwards when we're doing woke kindergarten in San Francisco. You know, with you didn't hear about the story?
No, but wait,
Because I want to get to part of the book.
Okay,
You believe that public policies that address socioeconomic differences would be better at benefiting disadvantaged groups, and that race-based policies often hurt the very people they're trying to help. What are some examples of policies that would be better at reducing racial disparities?
So my overall argument is that class, socioeconomics, is a better proxy for disadvantage. We all want to help the disadvantaged, and the question is, how do we identify them, right? The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use, you know, Black and Hispanic identity.
Which is incredibly racist, by the way, assuming that someone is disadvantaged simply because they're Black. That's basically the white savior complex in action. The very same attitude the so-called woke crowd always claims to oppose. But here's the irony. They are the white saviors. They're the ones actually perpetuating racism, the ones saying, "Oh, you're Black or Hispanic or whatever. I need to help you because I'm superior." That's the mindset. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way. Treating people like that isn't compassion, it's condescension. It's deeply, inherently racist.
Socioeconomics and income that picks out people in a more accurate way.
Not my question, but when you say that socioeconomics picks out people in a better way than race, when you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and black households. You see the huge disparity between white households and Hispanic households. So your argument, and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed, in my opinion.
Well, there's two separate questions. One is whether each racial group is socioeconomically the same. That I agree with you. They're not.
Yeah, they're not, and the stats show that.
Yeah, of course, I agree with that fully. The question is, how do you address that in a way that actually targets poverty the best?
What's the point of framing everything as a race issue when it clearly isn't? If the real concern is poverty or socioeconomic status, then why not focus on that instead of skin color? Why not look at the actual data on income and opportunity? That's always the more accurate lens. Not all black people are poor, and not all white people are rich. There are struggling white families and successful black families. So why force everything into a racial narrative that doesn't hold up 100% of the time? If we focus on socioeconomic status instead, we get to the root of the problem. Without the divisiveness, that's what makes it so frustrating when people like Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, and the rest of The View insist on turning every discussion into a debate about race. It's not even the most accurate way to look at the country. If we truly care about understanding and solving real issues, focusing on class and status is the way to go. It's objective, it's factual, and most importantly, it's far less polarizing.
He called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor, but it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor, in a way that addresses poverty as the thing to be addressed.
That part is true, but as you are a student of Dr. King, I'm not only a student of Dr. King, I know his daughter, Bernice, right? So I'm going to get to my question.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that colorblindness was the goal.
Notice how Sunny Hostin keeps shifting the subject whenever he makes a point that's completely logical. One she has no real way to counter. He brings up the idea of focusing on class, explaining that if we do that, we'd not only be helping Hispanic and black communities, who are often disproportionately affected, but also poor white families. And what does Sunny do? She sidesteps the point entirely. She changes the subject because she has no solid response. There isn't one. But you can tell she doesn't like that argument. It's almost as if she's uncomfortable with the idea of helping everyone equally, even when the logic is undeniable.
The character versus the color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for colorblindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
That moment even made the other hosts on The View visibly uncomfortable. What Sunny Hostin did right there, straight up calling their guest a charlatan to his face, was shocking. And suddenly, you could see the rest of them shift into defense mode for him. It was wild. Just crazy. Then Coleman calmly responds, saying, I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both times for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican, if they were compelling. That single statement completely dismantled their narrative.
As a pawn by the right, and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you?
He's never voted for a Republican.
You said that you're a conservative. No, you did. You actually said that in the podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
Yes.
If you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Alright, now let's get back to the video.
To those critics.
Okay, let's give it
First thing I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro. That's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was,
Yes.
and it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based
But
policy.
he also says
Okay.
you must include race.
No, he didn't. He says it's
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait. Let's not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling.
It's honestly ridiculous how Sonny Hostin reacts, because all he did was make a valid point. Why do we have to focus only on blacks or Hispanics, only on non-whites? Why not focus on class instead? That way, we'd still end up disproportionately helping poor black and Hispanic communities, while also helping poor white families. And what does Sonny do? She gets emotional and goes straight for the ad hominem attacks, calling him a charlatan. Classic deflection.
Since I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me with
It's
no
not about you,
evidence.
but
that I've been
I
co-opted.
want to give you the opportunity to respond to the
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone. I have an independent podcast. I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because I...
Notice how the audience starts applauding when he says that, and Sonny Hostin clearly doesn't like it. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't like it. Joy Behar doesn't like it either. Every time he makes a simple, common-sense statement, like, your race or skin color shouldn't define how people judge you, it gets a reaction. Why? Because it's true. Everyone knows it, but somehow, that truth seems to offend the hosts of The View, especially Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to think that way. They cling to a divisive mindset that keeps these conversations going in circles. And honestly, it's exhausting to watch.
Like, racial tensions have gotten worse. Do you see it that way, and what do you attribute it to?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at all the data, it finds that race relations were getting better until about 2013. That year, you had majority of black, Hispanic, and white Americans saying race relations were good, and then you just see it nosedive. And 2013, people like to blame, Republicans like to blame Obama. It wasn't his fault. Democrats like to blame Trump. It was actually just technology. We all got social media and smartphones, and we had videos being promoted in the algorithm that were unrepresentative, and it created this impression that racism was on the rise when in fact it had been on the decline for decades.
And it
Do you
allowed
attribute that
everybody.
at all to foreign actors getting involved in technology?
Yes, Russia tries to meddle, absolutely, but I don't think we can blame foreign actors. This is a homegrown problem.
Okay. I have a question, because you write that the anti-racism movement, there are a couple of people, I don't even know who they are, maybe.
Robin
they are.
DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo,
Yeah.
Ibram Kendi, for instance.
Okay. Well, you say that is just another form of racism, and you even say it has a lot in common with white supremacy. How can you compare those two things? You talk
compare
about
them because-
anti-racism, you're comparing it to white supremacy.
Because they both view your race as an extremely significant part of who you are. So white supremacists, they obviously say, we all know what they say, okay? Neo-racists like Rob DiAngelo, they say that to be white is to be ignorant, for example. Well, this is a racial stereotype, and I want to call a spade and say this is not the style of anti-racism we have to be teaching our kids. We should be teaching them that your race is not a significant feature of who you are. Who you are is your character, your value, and your skin color doesn't say anything about that.
Coleman Hughes for coming, because this is a show of lots of different opinions, and we are multi-generational.
It's not exactly a show known for diverse opinions. The hosts all pretty much share the same perspective. And honestly, it often feels like they're paid to push the same predictable, woke narrative. What do you guys think? It even got to the point where the other hosts of The View seemed to turn on Sonny Hostin, and the fans, their own audience, started applauding when it was clear the hosts were irritated and uncomfortable. The audience basically turned against them right there on live TV. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Coleman Hughes' appearance, just completely shutting down all the political grandstanding coming from Sonny Hostin, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and the rest of them. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next one.